Welcome, thanks for joining me for the Spider-Man pre-release guide. There's a lot going on with this set. It's a mini set. There's only 188 cards that will impact sealed and draft greatly. They are introducing a new draft format where it's going to be pick 2 with 4 players in a pod instead of 8. I will not be going over draft tactics for pick 2 drafting, but there are definitely some tactics that I'd like to share. Maybe I'll do that later this week or during early access. I do want to point out that during Wizards Early Access, we will be playing Through the Omenpaths, which is the exact same set as the Spider-Man set, but they changed the name of the cards and the art. So yeah, Through the Omenpaths is going to be Arena's version of the Spider-Man set. For the sake of this guide, though, I'm going to go ahead and focus on tabletop and show just the Spider-Man art for the cards. If you only play on Arena, it's going to be tough converting the card images that you're seeing to the ones that you will see on Arena, but do your best. Normally I like to cover, mechanics first and archetypes, but I actually think it's much more important to cover what 188 cards looks like when you start building with sealed pools. Because there's a lot of things that happen in a 188 card set that does not happen in 265 card sets. So, the first thing you'll notice is that it is not unusual to get 3, 4, even 5 of the same exact common in your pool. For example, in this pool, I have 5 Electros Bolts, 3 Spider Rexes, 3 Mysterios Phantasms, 3 Spider-Man No More. And although this can be not ideal, especially if you have 3 legendary cards, right, like the Spider Rex, there's also some good things about it in that it can make building a cohesive synergistic deck more likely in sealed. So I do think that you should look for having good commons that you have 3, 4 of that are especially like in the 2-drop potentially, and that could be a good color for you to consider just for curve out reasons alone. In draft, I find that it's fairly similar. I think you do actually need to purposely focus on a 2-color base or a 1-color base and hedge on 2 other colors. It's not unusual for you to be running 2 or 3 of the same common or uncommon in your 2 and 3 slots. Again, high synergy for this set is going to be the name of the game. Technically, because it's a mini set, there are only 5 major draft archetypes. They are the most supported color pairings in this set. You can play other color pairings. The draft I just showed you was technically a green-black deck, splashing blue to make it soul tie. So you're not limited to this list, but these are the most supported archetypes in the format, hands down. And again, because we're having so much repetition with the commons and uncommons having 2, 3 copies in our deck for that synergy, and because there's not many cards to choose from in those slots to fill out your deck, I expect a lot of the games to play out very similarly. So there's going to be a lot of predictability based on what 2-drop does your opponent play into 3-drop. Like, you'll know exactly what they're doing. A lot of the games will play out with similar flow. So it's definitely an easier set, I think, to get into in a lot of ways for that reason. Even the key mechanics are pretty simple and easy. Web slinging, you may pay the alternative casting cost if you return a tap creature that you control to its owner's hand. This is done at the speed of the card that is web slinging, so it does have time restrictions. Most time we're talking about sorcery, not instants. This is not ninjutsu. I do want to also add that once a player casts the spell for the web slinging cost, the creature that it is using that is tapped will return to its owner's hand, regardless of whether you counter the web slinging spell or not, and you cannot kill the tapped creature in response to that casting of the web slinging spell either. Mayhem is really simple as well. If you discard a card with Mayhem, you can cast that card from your grave using the Mayhem cost. Timing rules still apply on this as well. There's tons of ways to discard cards in the set for Mayhem, so it actually is really well supported. Even Connive helps you discard cards. Connive does 2 things for this format. It kind of bridges between Mayhem and modified creatures. But when you Connive, you choose a creature, you draw a card, you discard a card. If the card you discard is not a land, you get to put a 1/1 counter on that creature. A modified creature is any creature with a counter on it, an equipment, or an aura. So you can see how these main mechanics really all kind of play together nicely. The last main mechanic of the set is Modal DFC card with Transform. You can cast either side of the card from your hand, the back side or the front side. It's just unlike other DFCs, the front side of these cards has a Transform ability that you can activate only as a sorcery. These are mythics, so don't expect to see them too often. Let's jump into the color analysis, starting with white. The commons are going to be incredibly important for every single color that you play. They will make up the vast majority of your deck, and expect to have to play multiple copies of each common in this set, in sealed and in draft. White's commons really focus on flying, web slinging, and modification. But really, if you are playing white, that city pigeon into a Spider-Man web slinger to return the pigeon, replay the pigeon, or into a Skyward Spider or a Gallant Citizen into the Daily Bugle Reporters is what you're going to be doing in this set for white. There's just not a lot of other options. White's common level removal are Spectacular Tactics and Web Up, and there's a combat trick. I think combat tricks are going to be crucial since removal does seem to be lacking in the set. At uncommon, you have some nice benefits for flickering or playing spiders, which also modify spiders or modify other creatures. I think the modification is a major part of white, so look for modifying. At uncommon, you'll get another removal spell and 2 ways to modify creatures. Then we get into the rares. Remember that even though more than a third of the set are rares and mythics, you're not going to see a ton of these in your seal pools or drafts, so don't expect these to be making up the vast majority of your deck. However, they're great cards. White has an absolute bomb mythic called Anti-Venom that actually really makes a good case for playing mono white. I'm not sure how feasible that's going to be in sealed, but it is an interesting card to see. I also think it's interesting that a lot of the white cards really are trying to push you into Bant, including Peter Parker, which is the DFC for white. Moving on to blue, blue puts a high priority on flyers still and modifications, but it definitely brings in more Connive and more graveyard synergies as well. Doc Ock is a very good common that can win a game. Blue has good tempo and some decent removal. Blue also has this really large theme at the uncommon level to be playing villains. So there's a lot of benefits for playing more villains, and that is juxtaposed to the tempo bounce modification that you see from the heroes at uncommon as well. But something like the Vulture Scheming Scavenger is quite good as a top-end villain card payout. Whereas Madam Web is more of a hero payout because the spiders tend to be heroes. I also think that the Sun Spider is pretty good because it can actually grab either removal or buffs depending on your board state and whether you're the aggressor or not. Blue's rounded out by some decent tricks and value plays, but overall I think in blue you're either going to pick villains or not, and usually focus more towards the villains and going towards a flyer win con. The rares are pretty good in blue. There's a lot of focus on making tokens and clones. Interesting enough, the blue-based DFC card goes towards Grixis, which leans towards the Connive and Mayhem synergies. So I do think it's interesting that blue wants you to push more towards the graveyard villain theme, even though I think the flying more hero theme is quite good too. In black, the commons that you're looking at are pretty good at the 2-drop. Common Crook and Merciless Enforcers are both really good 2-drops. Also have Mob Lookout, so don't forget about those hybrid mana cards. Venomized Cat is pretty good in black in that it really helps you fuel your graveyard for all the graveyard synergies that you can see throughout the villains. Black has decent removal, but yet again, the removal is pretty lacking in the set overall. I don't think it's going to be a major focus, but certainly the less there is of it, the more likely maybe you will end up in black just to get that removal spell. Tombstone Career Criminal is a really nice card. I do like it a lot. There's some decent uncommons in black that really pay out for villains. The rares are really good in black. Certainly all of them seem reasonable to play. The Soulstone looks fun. Hold the Sinister Six looks fun. Some more removal, and then Harker's Luck is a really interesting build around that I'm just not sure is something you should ever be doing in sealed. The DFC for black goes into Jund. So they really want you to focus on big creatures, graveyard synergies, and mayhem with it. Moving on to red, the red commons are pretty good at the 2-drop and 1-drop level. 3-drop, it starts focusing a lot more on mayhem and being able to discard cards and going through your deck. I think that is reasonable. With a little bit of burn, again, just not as much as you normally would see in most sets. There are also a few good uncommon creatures that you get access to in red and some decent uncommon removal spells. Red's rares are really interesting and definitely lean into mayhem. There is a spider theme within red as well, and a mana ramp theme with a few top-end red enchantments that are quite interesting to play with. The DFC for red goes into Jeskai. focusing on playing cards from exile, which is not something that happens a lot in this set. So I don't think that this is going to be as relevant as it appears on the surface. Green's an interesting color in the set in that it has only villains as the 2 drops at common for mono green. The hybrid mana cards are not villains, but provide really nice abilities. And then the 3 drop is quite good in that it will fix for your mana, which will be important in draft and sealed for sure, with some nice top end cards. At common, green has some decent removal and value, plus combat tricks. The uncommons in green are decent as well, that really kind of focus more on spiders and going wide, but I don't think you have to be doing that theme to play green well. Green will be used as more of mana fixing than anything else, and ramp. Some decent removal found at the uncommon level as well. The rares in green are quite good. I think a lot of these are very annoying to play against. Lizard in particular and Sandman both look quite good, with some nice fun build arounds as well. The DFC for green is really good. It focuses on Naya, going wide, spiders, and modification. But the fixing in this set is pretty minimal and few and far between. They are not in every single pack as your land slot. I just feel like the fixing in the set is going to be a huge problem, and if you want to do something 5 colors or 4 colors or 3 colors, you're going to have to really focus hard on making sure that you lock in those treasures and those green fixers pretty early in either draft, or really make sure that you open a seal pool that has enough of these. I think Cosmic Spider-Man is an incredible 5-color card. I just think that this set, you're going to need a lot of those enablers to get that mana right to be able to land it. I think you also need to be careful when you look at 2-color cards that are rares that you might want to stretch for, in that they aren't as supported archetypes. So if you're looking at, Boros, Simic, Orzhov, Golgari, and it's important to remember that these are not the 5 main supported 2-color archetypes. Can you play these 2 colors together? Absolutely. But I think it does make a difference when you're trying to construct a synergistic deck to know, okay, this card might be something that I'm going to have to splash as a 3rd color and make plans accordingly. So going back to the main archetypes, we have Black-Red, which is going to be the Mayhem deck. The main idea with Mayhem is you discard cards and then you get to still play them, so you're technically drawing more cards and getting more value that way. Connive deck is pretty similar, except you're drawing cards and discarding them and then using the value from the grave or getting that 1/1 counter for modification. The white-blue modified deck really focuses on tempo and control and making sure that those flyers really get in and connect and draw more cards that way. The web-slinging deck really wants you to focus on getting bigger creatures out for more value multiple times or earlier in the game so that you can win with a wider board or a modified board that is bigger than your opponent's. The red-green deck really focuses on 4 mana value or greater and wants to have the biggest thing on the board with trample or modified in some way, so it's just very large, and hopefully you'll be drawing cards off it as well with some of the signposts. The artifacts in this set have some decent fixing. There is an actual artifact theme deck where you make a bunch of artifact tokens and you go to town with them in a go wide artifact creature build. So don't overlook your artifacts. Every single color has a common artifact with either an additional cost or an activated ability on it that contains that color. There are some pretty cool rare artifacts, but keep in mind there are no planeswalkers in this set. The set also has a bonus list, which has cool art, but you're just really not going to come across these very often. They're not very common to open, so I'm not going to go over these cards. I don't think they're going to influence the format too much, but keep in mind you could see any number of these cards or open them at your pre-release. Anyway, that's the whole set. I think that overall it's actually a pretty good set to maybe bring a newer to Magic player to try Sealed. I think it will be easier to build decks with fewer cards in the card pool to begin with. Fewer choices means more consistency. So I think for a more advanced player, this set might fall a little flat just because the repetition of it. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. As always, if you have any questions about the set, just leave them in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer them. If you want to see the set in action, feel free to join me over on Twitch on September 17th for the live streamer event put on by Wizards. We'll be playing this set. I'll be answering questions in chat. It's always a good time. Additionally, if you're still listening, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Thanks as always, and good luck at your pre-release.